Children Living in Poverty by Jackie, Alex, Renee and Sev. Have you ever wondered which population group is the most vulnerable to experiencing poverty? Well, we are about to explain and argue why children are the most at-risk group in this situation. Children are the hardest hit by poverty. Van der Moutel, 2012. As we will speak about later, children are young, impressionable, inexperienced, and rely on adults to meet many of their daily needs. A lot of the time, children are born into families who are already living in poverty, so they are already starting off life with a disadvantage. They are also disadvantaged because it is nearly impossible for a child to bring themselves out of poverty without the help of an adult, namely their parents, guardians, or the government. According to the United Nations, a child is defined as a person under 18 years of age. UNICEF, 2005. According to Van der Moutel, 2012's article on the effect of poverty on children, deprivation causes lifelong damage to the mind and body of infants and small children. Childhood is a time when the mind and body are growing and developing. The physical and social environments of a child have been found to be of great importance in setting up a child for their future development. Harms, 2010. If a child suffers some sort of disadvantage in the first several years of life, it can have a detrimental effect on the rest of their lives. Van der Moutel, 2012. In December 1990, Australia signed and agreed to the United Nations Convention on the Rights of a Child. This is an international agreement which aims to protect all children. The Australian government is legally obligated to protect and defend children. Australian Human Rights Commission, 2017. Articles 26 and 27 are two examples of rights children should have in order to prevent and eliminate poverty for children. Article 26. The government should provide extra money for the children of families in need. Article 27. Children have the right to a standard of living that is good enough to meet their physical and mental needs. The government should help families who cannot afford to provide this. UNICEF, 1989. It is critical that we assist children in breaking free of poverty because children hold the key to breaking the poverty cycle. Van der Moutel, 2012. If children are given a chance, future generations are likely to succeed.
In 2013, 17.4% of all children were living in households experiencing poverty. There has been an increase in both the rate and profile of poverty for children in lone parent families since 2011. According to the Australian Council of Social Service, children in lone parent households are more than 3 times likely to be living in poverty than children in couple households. More than 730,000 children live in poverty, 1 child in 6. In single parent families, 4 children in 10 now live in poverty. In Australian Council of Social Services report in 2016 shows that lone parents have experienced an increase in their rates of poverty from 25.7% in 2003 to 29.1% in 2013. Lone parents experience a higher risk of poverty due in part to lower levels of employment. The responsibilities of being the lone parent of a child can severely restrict choices and options for lone parents. This, combined with the level of parenting payment for a single parent with young children or New Start allowance for those with older children, make life difficult for this family group. The social security system does not take proper account of extra costs of raising a child alone. For example, the rates of payment for a sole parent were not increased along with the single pension payments in 2009. The high rates of poverty experienced by children in lone parent households is a result of high rates of poverty among lone parent households overall. It is shown that 33.2% of all lone parents' households are living below the poverty line. This shows that the risk of a child living in poverty rises if the parents separate. Recent analysis based on the Household Income and Labour Dynamics in Australia panel suggests data that 1 in 10 children under the age of 18 live in an income-related poverty. The situation is marked worse for children living in single-parent families. Around 1 in 4 people live below the poverty line. Recent evidence suggests that we ought to be looking closer to home, at housing, and the increasing insecurity of housing for many low-income households. The analysis of 2013 Australian Bureau of Statistics survey confirms that home ownership is out of reach for many families with children. Housing costs account for 60% of weekly income. This leaves very little for food, clothes, and other essential items for children. These rates of poverty are linked to the current low payment level of the New Start allowance, and poverty rates are expected to increase for this group as the New Start allowance is likely to continue to fall behind other government payments and incomes more broadly across the economy. Poverty rates for families with education levels below Year 10 also had extreme poverty rates, with around 1 in 2 households living with incomes below the poverty line. Children within these households do not have access to the same resources as an average child throughout Australia.
A child born into a poverty-ridden family cannot be held responsible for the poverty that they are nonetheless forced to endure. Saunders, 2005. They are not able to have an income of their own, as they are legally not able to have a sturdy job. As Saunders 2005 mentioned, children are more likely to receive help and small benefits from the community around them, such as free meals or snacks from local stores. Although they are not able to receive a personal benefit from Centrelink. As children, they are not able to personally better their living situation, nor their family's income, and they are solely reliant on the adults in their life and their ability to provide for the children. A child living in poverty is likely to have to skip meals due to the inability to afford putting food on the table, and is likely to live in a home that is unable to be heated in the winter due to the cost of heating. The inadequate heating or poor quality of meals will hinder the development of children and contribute to poor health. Saunders, 2005. Access to healthcare for a child living in poverty is limited, and their ability to develop at an average rate is reduced. They may also be behind in immunisations, leading to more critical illnesses and not being able to access medication needed for conditions the child may endure due to not developing properly or being undernourished. The stresses related to being poor may also affect the child both physically and mentally. Other factors, such as shame, can also impact child's mental health. An impact of poverty on this group is the shame associated with not being able to have the same items and experiences as other children in their communities, such as not being able to have brand new clothes. The stigma associated with wearing second-hand clothes or relying on welfare agency support may result in low self-esteem and related psychological problems. Saunders, 2005. A child that feels shamed by their appearance or family life is more likely to suffer from psychological problems that lead into adulthood. The feeling of shame is a burden to people in poverty, both personally and emotionally. It adds to the isolation and exclusion that the poor already experience. Saunders, 2005. In a world where money increasingly signifies status and accomplishment, to have none is to miss out, and to be seen as having none is to be exposed as a failure. Saunders, 2005. Education can be restricted from those children in poverty, leading to issues throughout their lives such as the limits on the type of jobs they can have when they are older, which can cause and lead to a never-ending cycle of poverty.
Youth allowance is a payment issued to students by the government that aid in schooling costs such as enrolment, textbooks and other extras that can be required for study. In order to receive youth allowance payments from Centrelink, you must be between 16 and 24 years of age. There are a few other guidelines you must follow. You must have finished year 12 and continue study, need to live away from home to study, independent for youth allowance, need to be looking for full-time work or doing approved activities, and 18 to 24 must be studying full-time. You also must be an Australian citizen resident in order to claim a youth allowance payment. Also, Centrelink have their own guideline as to who they deem to be independent. 3,800 university students are dependent on fortnightly youth allowance payments from the government, and payments are said to not even be reaching the recognised poverty line. Looking at social work knowledge, values, ethics, principles and theories, the Code of Ethics that was created by the Australian Association of Social Work have defined various aspects of the things that social workers deem to be as values and ethics. Respect and human dignity and worth, professional boundaries, commitment to social works and social justice and human rights, looking at conflicts of interest, cultural competence and respect for persons.
So that's children living in poverty. Do you think they're the most vulnerable?